Hi, my chickens. Happy Monday. I thought it would be good to use this little Diwali background in honor of Sid's parents who are so sweet and are coming to talk to us today about that holiday and introduce us to Hinduism. So much fun stuff. But in math, we'll do some fun stuff too. We're going to be talking about equivalent fractions, and we're just going to dive a little deeper into that this week. You did such a good job last week with fraction stuff. I'm so proud of you. In fact, I just went to a training this weekend, and the guy who was a math teacher made this joke about if you want to be the scariest costume for Halloween, that you should just dress up like a fraction, because whenever someone sees a fraction, they get dreadfully scared. And I thought, not my little chickens. My chickens don't get scared of fractions. You did so good. Okay, let me stop complimenting you, and let's get to it. So, do you remember how we talked about fractions have to be equal parts? And also, if these wholes are the same size, we can make two fractions that name the same amount. And so, let's see. We've got, let's say we shade 3 of those pieces, and we have 9 total. Then that fraction would be 3/9. Now, I can make that exact same amount on this other fraction to the right. And I can do it actually a lot easier, except for you're going to see I messed up with the film bucket. But just pretend this didn't happen. So basically what happened was when I filled it, and I filled it in black, and then I tried to make it blue, and then my whole thing went blue. But you get the idea, okay? So we've got one of those pieces shaded blue, and we've got 3 equal pieces total. Part to the total, part to the total. So 3/9 is exactly equal to 1/3. And one of them looks bigger than the other because the numbers are bigger. But just because the numbers are bigger does not mean the amount is more. So do not let your little kid brain kick in. And then last week we began to talk about the do rule. Whatever you do to the top, you have to do to the bottom as well. And I see that 3 divided by 3 gives 1, and 9 divided by 3 gives 3. And so that is how soon we are going to start simplifying our own fractions. And the reason why it's called simplest form is because that quite literally is the easiest way to make that amount. And we talked about when you were little that you thought 3 pieces meant more, but that's not always the case. So you always want to ask yourself, what is the size of the piece and what is the size of the whole before deciding if you have a lot or a little bit of something. And then just so you know, we're going to start doing this without picture models pretty soon. So let's say we've got 5/7 and we're trying to turn them into 35ths, which you might be thinking, why would I want to do that? Well, when we add and subtract with fractions, we need to often make an equivalent fraction with a different bottom number. Okay, so this skill is going to lead into some really fancy fraction work. And so if I look at 7 and I look at 35, those two numbers are going to whisper the secret of what I'm going to do to make this equivalent fraction. I'm going to do 7 times 5 because I know that 7 times 5 will get me to that 35. And if I do times 5 on the bottom, I better do times 5 on the top. Big sister, little sister. So my missing numerator is going to be 25. And that is how it's done. Now, see those little times 5 times 5? Those things are called nothing in math, but I like to call them insults to your intelligence because some kids don't like to write them down and then they make the silliest little mistakes. So even if you're not a huge fan of showing work, you will learn that if I can talk you into showing good strategy, you will be so much better of a middle school math student. When you're little, all the math is kind of done in the head, but the older you get, the more we want you to be really writing it down and showing a strategy. And so the only other thing that I feel like I should mention before I let you free is that you have to use multiplication and division only. You cannot do big sister, little sister rule and use addition or subtraction. Unfortunately, it just doesn't work that way. And hopefully, since we're going to be doing this with the models a lot, you'll be able to see that in action. So I'm excited. You guys are killing it. So keep up the good work, and we'll jump into a fun little escape room today, actually.